So I already made a video if calisthenics helped me with breaking, mostly in a physical sense. For example, getting stronger. Did it help me to get more power moves or to get better tricks or something like this? If you want to see that, I will leave the link of this video in the description. But now I want to talk more about the mental aspect that is extremely important as well. The main difference between b-boys and calisthenics athletes is the way they practice. So many b-boys practice in so many different ways because breaking is not just a sport, but it's also an art form, right? And in art, there is not really right or wrong. There is a lot of freedom involved. But of course, breaking is also a little bit a sport, and there's the physical aspect, should be a little bit more structured. And even art actually can be structured. There are still basics even in art. There are still patterns to learn, movements to learn. Or for example, when you want to learn how to draw or play an instrument, there are very scientific, very mathematical basics you need to follow. And then when you learn the basics that are pretty strict and logical, then you can try to express yourself with the real art form, which is expressing yourself and creating yourself, your own style. But at first you need to follow the rules. This is what lacks in most of b-boys and b-girls training. They don't have specific rules that are kind of equal for everyone. So you can ask two professional b-boys the same question and they will answer in two completely different ways. Sometimes there are some patterns that you can notice. I asked so many strong b-boys the same questions over and over again during the years and I received so many different answers, but sometimes some aspects of the answer is still similar or sometimes it's even the same. So you can kind of recognize some patterns and you can notice why some b-boys improve faster, for example, and why some b-boys don't improve that much. But nobody ever wrote like a method to train breaking or to learn the basics in breaking. In other disciplines and sports, the training is more structured. And if you want to get to point A to point B, there's a strict path to follow in order to get from this to this. In breaking, if you want to get from here to here, you have so many different options and ways to do it. That actually could be correct because each one of us works a little bit differently. Our body is always different from another person. So maybe a method that doesn't fit me could fit someone else and vice versa. But still, there is so much of a lack of a structure. I think there should be a little bit of a structure. And also there should be different options in this structure. So for example, if a person want to learn air flare but he lacks of shoulder mobility, he should take this path to learn air flares. If this person want to learn air flare and he's very mobile in his shoulders, maybe should take the path B to learn air flares. It can still be very structured actually. What I noticed and what I learned about calisthenics is the structure is much clearer. Even calisthenics athletes practice in so many different ways actually. There is not only one correct way to practice calisthenics. There are multiple ones, there are multiple methods, and many pro athletes use a mix between those methods, but still they know what they are doing and they exactly know the progressions of each movement. It's very clear. Maybe because the calisthenics movements are kind of easier in a sense. I don't mean easier to learn because, for example, a full planche can take up to years, but the coordination pattern of a planche is much easier than an air flare, for example. Air flare doesn't require any strength, while planche requires a lot of strength, but the technical aspect of an air flare is much harder than a planche, you know what I mean? So it makes sense to me that for air flares there could be many different methods to learn it, but for the planche is mostly like straightforward because you just need to be strong in your shoulders basically to do a planche. Of course there are also other parts involved, but the main thing is building strength for the specific muscles involved in the planche. While for air flares you need to care about so many details and it can be very confusing. But still, even when a movement starts becoming very advanced in calisthenics, calisthenics athletes know how to practice this movement because the structure is very clear. And they have different options, as I said before, but they kind of know how option A looks like, for example, how option B looks like, how option C looks like. While b-boys, sometimes they have no idea on how to learn an air flare, for example, or which path to follow. So when I was practicing breaking in the last years, I already had a pretty structured plan, even if sometimes I used to freestyle a lot, or sometimes when I didn't feel like I wanted to practice in that way, I just go to the practice spot and practice randomly in breaking, which is very common for a lot of b-boys. They just go to the practice spot and practice how they feel like, which can be fine, of course, because as I said, it's an art form, so you can do whatever whatever. But still, if you want to be serious about it and if you want to be professional about it, even art forms have a structure to build the basics. You cannot just grab a guitar and start playing randomly and call it like, oh, I had my guitar session. No, you just randomly play a guitar, but it doesn't mean you had like a proper guitar session, you know? I'm pretty sure there are rules in all art forms, or maybe almost all art forms. So what I want to say with all of this is that you need to build your own structure. I know in breaking is not that clear, but you need to study the moves you want to learn, or the combos you want to learn, or whatever you want to learn actually. You need to break it down into smaller pieces and learn these things step by step. It's not like I want to practice air flare, I'm gonna directly practice air flare. Try to break it down and practice all the things, all the exercises, make a list, make a training plan, and then practice it. Even if you don't care about power moves actually, even if you just dance, you need to work on your footworks, you need to work on your steps, on your patterns, on your top rock. You need repetitions. So, of course, maybe you like to freestyle and you want to just go to the training spot and just let yourself go and dance. But maybe at first, at the beginning of the training, or maybe at the end of the training, how it feels better for you, still have some structure in what you do. So still repeat some footwork patterns, some basic steps like a 6-step, I don't know, or other footworks that you are working on. So still repeat the basics, still try to have a structure even if you consider yourself more as an artist than an athlete. In this way, the progress will be much faster. Also, the opposite way around, if you're watching this video, you consider yourself more like an athlete, even in breaking, and you want to learn specific movements, you don't care about freestyling or the artistic side of breaking, still, I would recommend you also the opposite way. So have a structure, of course, but still, maybe try to let yourself go sometimes. And with the basics you learned, try to create something new. Or even in combos, for example, try to freestyle with combos a little bit. Don't just practice strictly like the plan that you need to follow. Of course, follow the plan, but you can do some extra things sometimes and try to experiment a little bit and try to be creative a little bit. If you will need help for your trainings, consider my coaching plans. I will leave the link in the description. And if you want to learn specific moves like windmill, swipe, flare and air flare, check out the PDF guides. I will leave the link in the description as well. And see you next time with a new video. Yo ninjas!